Lay. Sir. Yeah. Yeah.
Kane is in the building, nigga.
Alright, already the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they will see the sun? Just remember when you come up, the show goes on.
Alright guys, we have a great show for you guys tonight, and without further delay, we're going to talk with our first guest. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it in person, but we managed to get a video chat with him. Please give a nice cyber welcome to our first guest.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We have video chatted you today to get some insight from you about our upcoming show topic.
Alrighty, let's do it.
So how do you feel about the notion that people, despite their differences, can be right?
I think that there are two sides to every story. I think in some ways people can be right despite the vast differences in their culture or among them.
Great answers, but being in such a high political position as yourself, what would your answer be?
As the king, my answer would be no, solely because I am the king. And as the king, anybody that opposes me will get their head chopped off. That's it.
Well, consider your first answer being the view that middle-class people have. Don't you think that both answers are right despite the difference in political importance?
Well, if you put it that way, I guess you're right. That's okay. I didn't even want to come to this show.
Exactly what our point is today. How lifelong learners, despite their differences, can also be right. So on this edition of Forbes Tonight, we will be having special guests Siddhartha from Hermann Hesse's book, Siddhartha, and Oedipus from the play of Sophocles, Oedipus the King. So without further ado, let's invite our first guest, Siddhartha. How are you today, Siddhartha?
Fine, and yourself, Mr. Forbes?
Just dandy. Now, before we start, I'd like to know if you're familiar with Oedipus the King.
Yes, he is the king of Thebes.
Good. So, what do you think about Oedipus as a person?
I feel as though he's a great leader. He does everything and anything needed of him from his people. However, he has a slight arrogance about himself.
How so? Can you elaborate on that?
All throughout his journey, he kept cursing the murderer to these bad things. For instance, in the middle of his quest, he says to the people, and I quote, "And on the murderer this curse I lay, wretch may he pine in utter wretchedness, and for myself, if with my privy he gain admittance to my hurt, I pray the curse I laid on others fall on me."
એટલું જ છે ભાઈ એના કરતાં વધારે નથી બીજું તો એરોપ્લેન્સ આમ કરે બીજાને મારી નાખે.
This shows how Oedipus' determination to find the killer makes him go as far as cursing himself if he does not succeed.
Very nice answer. Next question. How do you feel you would have handled the situation if you were in this position? Also, do you think that the principles of the ends justifying the means is relevant?
હા મને લાગતું છે કે જણાતું છે પણ એરોપ્લેન્સની જગ્યા હતો ને તો બીજું કહેતે કે
I would have pursued the truth like Oedipus. However, I would have taken my peers' insight into more consideration.
મજા નહીં કહેતો લાગેલો તે અમે ખાધું કંઈ પીધું હવે બેસીને સુઈ ગયા પછી આમતા બહુ દુઃખ થયા થોડા હાથે
As for the second question, no, my actions would have been more based on the good of the people and stayed that way throughout the whole journey. Unlike Oedipus, his mindset changed from the good of the people to his own satisfaction.
Well, you seem to have thought this out a lot. Now, last question. Consider your journey. Think about all the events that have occurred in your lifetime. If you had a chance to go back and start over, what would that change be and why?
લાવો 15 વર્ષનો હતો ત્યારે બાબતને છૂટા પડી ગયા જે સામનો ખાતે ગયો ને ત્યાં બીજું આ હોય
All in all, I think that my actions were justified. I think that I did what was best in most of the events in my life.
પછી ના કરતાં વધારે બહુ થયું ને તો આ પહેલા હાથે ગયો તો
However, I have two regrets. One is the way I left my father. I never took into consideration of his feelings.
બીજું કે બીજાનો વિચારતો નહીં હતો પોતાનો જ વિચારતો હતો.
Second, I strayed off my path in the midst of my quest.
That's very enlightening. Thank you for your time during this interview, Doctor. Now, our next guest has gone from ragtown, low-class workers to living it up in the king's castle. He's fought with sphinxes and found murderers. Now, here is Oedipus. Hello, Oedipus. Are you familiar with Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse?
Yes, I'm very familiar with that intriguing novel.
Good. So you must know the very difficult decision that Siddhartha made early in his life, leaving his father for the Samanas, right?
I know. I couldn't have said that I would have made the same decision if I were in his place.
All right. So here's a $1 million question. What would you have done instead?
That is a difficult question, Stuart. In my society, we respect our fathers a lot more. We would never have left them, especially not for any spiritual journey. We did have very strict devotion to our mythology, but not so much as to leave our father.
Well, this just shows that people with their differences can still be right. In your case, do you feel that you made all the right decisions during your journey as opposed to Siddhartha, which in your eyes was wrong?
Yes, I made all the right decisions. They were totally justified. My actions were for the good of my people. Siddhartha did what he did for his own benefit.
Next question. Do you think that it was right for Siddhartha to make such a big decision at such an adolescent age?
I can't even trust my 15-year-old waiter to bring me my right food. How can I trust my 15-year-old son to take care of himself out on the world on his own? No. No, he didn't.
Okay, you already know what the last question will be. What would you have done differently given the chance to start over in your own situation? Or would you have changed anything at all?
I wouldn't have changed anything. I am the king. No. Scratch that. I would have changed one thing. Not cursing myself. Who would have known?
Thank you for being here today in this interview. When we come back, we're going to bring out Siddhartha and Oedipus out and reveal their answers to each other. All right, you guys, now we're back with both our guests, Siddhartha and Oedipus.
You said some lying things.
Guys, this is exactly why I brought you out here today. You both had very good answers in your interviews. I purposely asked you both questions about each other to support our topic that lifelong learners can be right despite their differences. Both of you have been on a journey that has changed your lives, and whether your journey was a good or bad one, you'll still learn some valuable lessons that will carry on with you the rest of your lives. That takes care of the life learner. To show that people can be right despite their differences, I will use examples from your experience. During the interview, you said that Oedipus can be arrogant. Yes, this is true and is justified by your proof, which were his exact words.
It may seem like that, but I hold a very high political position among my people, and I need to be assertive in what I say. How will they know that I'm a strong leader if I can't back it up?
Exactly my point, Oedipus. You're both right despite your differences. What Siddhartha is saying is that you cannot be careless with what you say even though you want to be assertive. What you're saying is you can't be a strong leader with a weak fist. Sometimes you have to give up what is necessary in order to protect your people. The same for you, Siddhartha. Okay, people, that's all the time we have on this edition of Forbes tonight. Catch us next week on our next topic.
Wow, powerful show tonight, huh?
Some show, man. This media persuasion thing has people hooked.
Yeah, imagine if we had this. It would have been so much easier to tell people things and make them believe without all the fighting that happened.
Exactly. Hundreds of millions of viewers a week. Just to one famous person and a few guests. How many lives have been changed?
It really shows you the power that media has, especially the power of persuasion.
I've learned something. Lifelong learning is not just learning everything you want to know. There's so much more to learn about other people's lives, other people's experiences, and much more.
Yeah, and I've learned that, despite differences, two people can be right, like you and me.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's good, like, seeing you metaphorically.
Hope our paths cross again one day.
I can't see our paths.
I'm sorry.